Well, welcome to worship this morning. If you're here for the first time, I'm very sorry. This is going to be the weirdest sermon you've ever had. It's not a normal one at all. But what it's designed to do is very intentional. Today's job is to tell you all about where your giving goes here at Liberty and what a difference it makes. So not your normal message. If you want a good sermon, that's happening next week. It's not happening this week. So I hate to disappoint you in advance, but here's my prayer is that at the end of this message, you feel more proud about your church than you've ever been, that you have a better sense of what your church is up to than you had before, and that you are more inspired to want to be a part of it than you were before you walked in. So what we're going to do today is walk through the ministries of Liberty and what it's up to, and when you give to Liberty, what it does and what it supports. Does that make sense? Say, I'm all in. All in. That's the spirit. All right. All four of you that did that. All right. So let's just jump right in if that's okay. So when you give to Liberty, like what does it do and what difference does it make? I want to start by talking about our outreach ministries. Liberty isn't about itself. It uses this space and this place to reach the gospel out all over our neighborhood, all over our cities, and into the world. Let me give you a couple of examples. The first one is we have a pickle jar, and you're like, what does a pickle jar do? It's a benevolence ministry. So that when people knock on our door at our church and they say, hey, I'm hungry. Hey, I can't pay my rent. Hey, I'm in real big trouble and my cell phone bill is about to die. Instead of saying, sorry, we can't help you, you know what we always say? We get to help you because of what you do. And so that happens, and we partner with PIN, People in Need up in Delaware, that help administer our program. And then just small examples where like when someone has a funeral here but can't afford flowers, we can pay for flowers for them because that's the kind of church that we want to be and who we are. And so part of our outreach just starts with taking care of our own people, paying for rent, paying for phones for folks that are in real trouble. And you'd be surprised, or maybe not, that's a real need in our community. The next thing that we have here at our church that we're a part of, and I just got back from it a couple of months ago, was we have partners in Honduras that are as faithful and as full of the Spirit as anyone you could ever meet in the world. We partner with a group called Heart to Honduras. There's another trip that's being launched next June that we're about to announce in a week or two. And what's cool about this is our church gets to say that we're a part of what God is doing, not just in our city, but all over the world. And so if you're interested in going, this is what happens. Youth might think in your head, oh, we're going to go down and help people in Honduras. They don't need your help. They are more on fire for the gospel and alive than you could ever imagine. And actually what happens is we go down and we're like, whoa, we need to bring that spirit back here. Obviously, we bring our expertise in certain areas and support all over the place, both financially and spiritually. But we come back from our partners in Honduras always thinking to ourselves, holy smokes, God, you are so big and so good. Every year we do 2 walls build, or we only do 2 now. We could do more, who knows? Each walls build that we do out here in this parking lot, and we actually build the frames and buy all the lumber for a family here in the Delaware area that needs a house. And Habitat for Humanity, who we partner with, they vet the families, and they have over 100 applications, and they only choose like 1 or 2. And we are privileged to get to write little notes of support on that wood and build the foundation of a home for a family here. Just to give you an idea, each one of those costs us like $15,000 worth of supplies. And it takes about 100 people to pull off. But we've never stopped doing it. We're not going to stop because it makes a huge difference in our community. And when we meet those families, and in fact, someone just sent me a photo the other day of the property where the house that we built is being installed right now and where that's going to go, you realize that if our church wasn't here and if our church wasn't doing what it does, people might not have homes. And so it's pretty special what we get to be a part of. Another thing that we get to do isn't just up north that way, but down south. Every single month, or about every month, we run a ministry called Street Church where we gather food down in our little kitchen, and then we send a team of volunteers to just set up in a bank parking lot, partnering with a local church downtown, and we pass out food to folks that are in need and that are hungry. And you might think to yourself, well, that's kind of weird. Why would we really do that? And let me just remind you of what happens. There will be a single mom that pulls up with a car full of like 6 kids with runny noses. That's the main meal that they get that day. And then they ask if they can take a little bit more home with them for later that day. I got to make sloppy joes 2 months ago for this kind of ministry and be a part of going down and seeing what happens. And what you'll find is we build relationships and make connections and share the love of Jesus with people that are in real need. That's happening all in real time. I was sitting here in the front row, and Avery goes like, "What are those boxes over there?" And I go, "Well, those are boxes for Thanksgiving." And there are families in our own community that can't have a good Thanksgiving because they don't have the resources. And so we pack 250 boxes. Someone before the first service was like, "Hey, we're actually out of boxes to give. We've already taken them all. Should we do 300? I was like, "Not this year. Not yet. Let's see how giving turns out." Just teasing. And so we do that. Adopt a Family, which Nancy just talked about, is its own like $30,000 to $50,000 fundraiser to make sure that there are families in our community who otherwise wouldn't have a good Christmas. We can show up and say, "Hey, here's what you need. We love you. Jesus loves you. We want you to know that you're not alone." And so our outreach ministries here at Liberty take the message of the gospel and don't keep it in our walls. They are like branches that go out in all directions. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Here's a longer list. We have Kairos ministries where many of our members actually go into prisons and they run conferences for inmates, teaching them about radical forgiveness and unconditional grace. We do disaster relief. So when there's a hurricane down south, we actually send funds and resources through some of our partners, collect supplies and send that. Here's a longer list of different groups we support, like Grace Clinic, Andrew's House, Buckeye Military Moms, Cornerstone of Hope, Common Ground Free Store, Turning Point Shelter, Lower Lights Mission, and there's even a longer list. But I just wanted you to know that this church is not just about what you see on Sunday. Our hearts are always reaching beyond our walls to make a difference and share the love of Jesus all over the world. But next slide, we also care about more than just outreach. We care about care and connection. Care and connection. One of the biggest shifts that we've made here at Liberty in the last year is we've added 3 new staff positions to care for our seniors. You know, coming out of COVID, and when you think about like all the changes that are happening in the world, one of the demographics in our community and inside our church that we noticed that was very vulnerable and struggling were those in our community who were seniors. They were often alone. They were not connected. There was a lot of challenges in the world. And so here's what we decided to do. We brought on a new associate pastor, Pastor Jonathan, who is being installed today at 4 p.m., who is laser focused on making sure that our seniors are loved on and connected in our church. We also brought on another position called our parish visitor, Mike Kivett, who brings communion and visits everyone. Just this last week, you know, I visited someone and it was like, I'm just being honest, like there's not enough time. They need so much love and they need so much support. And so we've even transitioned Amy King, who is our receptionist administration person over at the church, into just doing pretty much care coordination for our church. Because we realized that if we don't take care of our seniors in our church, we are not having the heart of Jesus. And so that's been a huge focus for us and a big change over the last year. So when you give, you help support those ministries in bringing the gospel. Someone told me, "Hey, we've been at church for our whole lives. We almost never miss a Sunday. But we're at a point right now where I don't think we can get to church. We need the church to come to us." And so our care ministries are designed to take what happens here on Sunday and bring that love into all kinds of places throughout our community to those in need. Another example of our care and connection ministries that got launched this year were small groups. And so starting this fall, but it's going to be an ongoing process, is when you come to church on Sunday and you go, "How do I get plugged in?" or "What do I do?" Well, now we actually have a dozen groups that you can join right away. You don't have to wait for a new member class. You don't have to hang out for a while and wonder if this church is okay. Instead, we can say, "Hey, we'll just download this app. Look around. Here are all these groups meeting all throughout the community all the time that you can join and be a part of right away." If you want to know where some of the brightest, hottest spiritual vitality is in our church, it's our Bible studies. And those are all listed on websites and app too. But if you want to see some power in the church, go to our 9 a.m. Tuesday women's Bible study. That is like a rock and an anchor of prayer and of spiritual vitality in our church. The men's Bible study on Wednesday isn't. I'm just teasing. It's great too. There's a Friday morning women's Bible study too, which is incredible. And we're talking about like salt of the earth, deep faith kind of people. And so if you want to be involved in that, your dollars help support the spaces, the places that help make those kinds of things happen. We're dreaming about and still building a welcome center and a lobby over here so that when someone walks in, they never have to wonder, how do I get plugged in? What do I do next? Instead, you can tell there's already a TV installed and we're getting all the pieces together. We want to make it seamless and easy for someone to go from first-time visitor to this is my church family. And that doesn't happen easily, but we're building those steps and making that happen as we go. Another thing that we've done is for this service and our last service is we have service opportunities where people can not just watch church, but you can actually move from being someone who watches to someone that's a part of the game and a part of the team. And so the last service, there were people handing out bulletins downstairs and upstairs that were new, that hadn't done it really before. And whenever I talk to them, they go, hey, this wasn't a punishment. I got to meet people. I got to feel like I have a purpose. And our dream here is that our church isn't a place that we just provide a product that people watch. We're a community of people that serve and love one another together. And so Care and Connection Ministries are a big part of what we do, and it's something that we're going to continue to do because it matters so much to Liberty. The next slide is about family ministries. And one of the things that you should know about family ministries is every week I get 2 emails. One is like this big church email, which has this long list of all the things going on at Liberty. But the day before, there's a family ministries email that goes out that is longer with more things happening just in the family ministries department than almost the entire rest of the church. Let me just give you a couple of examples. This last year, we brought on Pastor Jonathan to be laser focused on our seniors. But do you know of another demographic in our church that is very vulnerable that needs support? It's our kids. It's our kids and our youth especially. This last week, I was watching the World Series, and I'm on my couch late at night because it was a West Coast game. I think it was like 10 o'clock, and Grace couldn't sleep. And so she wanders down, and she goes, who are we rooting for? I go, I don't care about either one of these teams, but, this is the only time I watch baseball, the World Series. So we're watching the World Series, and I'm kind of explaining how it all goes, and then the commercials come on. And I can't tell you how hard that was for me as a dad. Because she's watching these commercials, and it's one person after another trying to destroy someone else, telling everyone else about how dangerous and scary the world is and how everything's going the wrong direction. And of course, those are just those commercials. It gets messy in between. And I spend more time as a dad trying to let her know that she doesn't have to worry about that, but deep down inside, I wonder to myself, should she be worried and should I be worried? What's going on with our kids? A couple weeks ago, I was with a bunch of 8th graders with Pastor Kelsey at a confirmation retreat for some of our kids. And we watched a heavy movie with really tough themes, and we talked about it afterwards. And you need to understand that when kids are little, and especially our teenagers are wrestling with questions of faith, if we don't meet them where they're at right now, we may lose them for a very long time. And it really matters that we provide ministries for our kids. And so here's what we do, and here's what Liberty is all about, is family ministries. First one is, did you notice what just happened a minute ago with these kids on the stage? We provide incredible Sunday school programs run by volunteers, but we also brought on an incredible new staff member in Jenny to help build that program up. Dawn Parr is our family ministries director, and she is a rock star at helping build these ministries. And it's exciting to see all the things that are happening on that front. So there's kids choirs, there's pumpkin carving events with so many kids you can't count. That's all happening all the time behind the scenes. We also don't just care about kids, but parents. And so reaching moms and dads is just as important as reaching the kids. And so throughout the week, we have things called Moms Co. Have you ever heard of MOPS before? Mothers of Preschoolers. They rebranded as Mom Co. because I think they all went to business school and they're switching things up. But we have Mom Co. We have Moms Next. I'm personally pumped. They're launching a dads group called Dad Tired. I'll be the first one to sign up for that. But we have... We schedule and program to support our parents as well because they're struggling and they're wondering how to raise kids and they're exhausted. How can we as a church do that? We provide programming for that. We don't talk about it often enough, but every single day during the week, right beneath our feet, there are almost 100 kids that come to our preschool. And we build connections, we teach the faith. And so this week, I get to go into the classes, and I get to tell them all about Jesus and plant the seeds of faith in these little ones. Our teachers do such a great job. And then we build relationships with those families, and many of them were here singing this morning. And so our preschool is an incredible ministry. Youth ministries are booming. In fact, last week, Pastor Jonathan was the one who was teaching our teenagers right up in the classroom. We're having to get more chairs because we're out of room. It's a good sign. And so if you don't see them in the sanctuary, that's because they're over there. And Pastor Kelsey's often not in this service because right now she's teaching confirmation while Don Parr's teaching confirmation over here. There's a lot happening on that front because we realize that if we don't lean in and do everything we can for these kids, who knows what could happen? And that is just critical to what we do here at Liberty. And so when you give to Liberty, one of the things you do is support our youth ministries. Two more things. Or just one more thing. You'll see at the bottom that it says Heritage Day, PTWD, that's Prepare the Way Day. I couldn't write it all. And our Liberty Barn Bash. We do these big events here. That's all run by our family ministries team. They do an incredible job bringing in food trucks. With Heritage Day, passing on the faith that came before us in a way that's winsome to the next generation. Here's our dream, is that in 2070, that is far away, but not that far away, none of us will be here. I might. You might not. Just teasing. Just teasing. In 2070 or so, they think back on those knuckleheads that were here in 2024. And they think to themselves, thank God they did what they did because we wouldn't be here without them. Thank God they planted the seeds of faith in us because if they hadn't given everything to us then, we wouldn't be here now. You and I are only here. I didn't build this barn. Some of you, there's some folks here that were. But we're only here because of people that have come before us that were faithful. And we want to be famous for being faithful now for the generations to come. So our family ministries is a critical way that our church passes on that faith to the next generation. Because when you're born, you don't inherit Jesus. It's not something that you just get. Someone has to personally invite you to know the love of Jesus, and we are never going to stop doing that here at Liberty. Another important thing that I want to lift up this morning is our worship ministries. You're a part of one right now, whether you know it or not. But every single Sunday, one of the anchors is that we provide a place, a safe place, a joyful place for everyone to worship every single week. I always tease people, they're like, are you guys going to be there on Sunday? I'm like, I don't miss Sundays. And the reason why is because this is crucial to who we are, is worshiping God. And so every Sunday, no matter what, rain or shine, you can find a worship service in this place. And our worship is astounding. Did you just hear these folks a minute ago? I mean, like, every week I get to have a front row seat to some of the most beautiful praise that happens anywhere in the world. And it is a privilege to get to be a part of these services here at Liberty. But one of the big things that we did in the last year is we went to a 2-service model. We surveyed folks last spring or so, and we said, hey, as we do our outdoor service this summer, would you all want to stay outdoors or go indoors? And do you remember what the survey results were? Half of you said, we want to go outdoors and we don't want to go indoors. And half of you said, we want to go indoors and we'll never go outdoors. And we were like, all right, that's awesome. What are we going to do? So we decided miraculously to try to do 2. And we hadn't done that in a long time, especially since pre-COVID days. And so now we are now rocking and rolling now with multiple services in a way we could have never imagined. So the congregation's growing and things are shifting. And so your dollars help support multiple worship services. And so at 9 a.m., we're doing communion, and I'm not sure if it was that extra hour bump, but man, it took a long time. Let's just say that. Another critical thing that I want to lift up is we have concerts here, so Christmas concerts. We have special summer concerts all the time, as well as special services that happen. So Maundy, Thursday services, and Good Friday, and Ash Wednesday, and all kinds of things happen in this space throughout the week that are important. Another privilege that your dollars help support are weddings and funerals. And so we do weddings here. We break even on them. It's not a moneymaker. But what it really is we're investing in relationships with young people and blessing them on their faith journey. And then when it comes to funerals, this happens very often. We get a phone call at the church, and they're like, hey, we don't really go there. We kind of knew someone once a long time ago, but I just lost my dad. Is there any way we could have some space for a funeral? Guess what our answer always is? It's always yes. We never turn anyone away here, and that's because of your support. And we can provide space, and we can provide a pastor, and we can provide other people, because when someone's hurting and someone is in need, we want to be the place where folks can come and know that God will always work through us. And so that continues to happen in our worship services. I wrote this in there just for me. We have biblical and powerful messages. I wrote that. No one else wrote that. If you want a biblical and powerful message next week, you have to come next week. That's when it'll happen. But just know that like we take that, I take that very seriously. Where in the world do you get to come and hear about the love of Christ in a clear and moving way? There's almost nothing more important. In fact, I would venture to say that if you come to a Sunday service and you open your heart, you never ever regret it. Have you ever been to a worship service where the gospel was proclaimed and you said, I should have stayed home? Never. It's because we all need it so desperately. I need it. One of the greatest privileges of being a pastor is that I'm forced to listen to the sermon every week, twice. I think it's because God knew I needed it. Well, the last slide on where some of your dollars go and ministry support goes here at Liberty are what we call our ad ministries. Administration, right? Administration is not a very sexy thing. And when I hear words like finance and personnel, I get the shivers, right? Not very exciting. But our ad ministries here help support all of our ministries and are the backbone that makes everything else happen. I'm privileged every single week to get to work alongside some of the most faithful, dedicated, underpaid, big-hearted people you could ever imagine here in that little white building with our staff. And so we have property managers that make sure, did you know that folks cleaned the bathroom before you got here? And made sure that all the cobwebs were gone. Did you know that as you showed up on campus this morning, that the lawn was cut and all of that was happening? We have a team of people who made these slides. Well, I made this slide. But all the other slides, guess who makes those? We have a team of people behind the scenes that make sure everything else can thrive. And so we, on the administrative side, and half of my role or more is administrative, we function at the bottom of a pyramid to let these ministries grow and the branches go out. And so when you give, just a silly little example, when you give, what happens is it goes in a plate, elders take it down to a safe, and then that all gets tucked away safely. But then all week long, we have a finance department that counts everything, works with volunteers, puts everything into QuickBooks, puts everything into all the little things that it's done, sends out giving receipts, works with auditors. And so all that system behind the scenes is happening and running all the time. But the thing that I want to lift up is we also are privileged to get to worship not just in a storefront and not in a field, but in one of the most beautiful properties ever in the history of the world. This week, someone knocked on the door and said, hey, is there any way I could just look inside and see what's going on in there? Folks drive past this every day with awe and wonder if they've never been in here. You should know that. And so I walk him in, and I walked him up those back steps, and we walk into this little row, and they walk in, and you should just see their jaws drop, right? If you get used to it, if you've been in here a few times, this is a sacred place. And we take care of it because it matters, and we're going to make sure that it's here for future generations. And so it's a little silly stuff, but like I walked in one day, and the reason why these pages are all wrinkly up here is because one day I walk in, and water's dripping from that place right there. Just like your home, there's nothing here at Liberty that happens that's less than $10,000. If you know what I mean. I mean, take what happens at your house. I got a text this last week from my guy that does the fertilizer. He's like, hey, would you like this treatment? And I go, how much? And then I go, no. But here at Liberty, we don't give up. We can't not take care of it because we want to leave it better than we found it. And it's God's space, not ours. And so everything that you give here at Liberty not only goes to all the ministries, but administratively, it helps take care of this place for ourselves today and for future generations to come. The other thing that we're doing is revitalizing hospitality. When folks walk in, we smile. You walk into a hallway. You don't walk into a lobby here, do you? And so we have dreams of kind of expanding that out and seeing what our options are to make it more welcoming as people walk in. We want to make it so that if you're a first-time visitor here, it is like seamless and easy and welcoming. We value hospitality. We're going to talk about that in December. But we want to expand that lobby and make it beautiful and welcoming for people as they come in. And the last thing that I'll lift up on the ad ministry side of things is you're not going to believe this, but do you think insurance costs are going up or going down? Take a wild guess. Well, this is random, but like we even got a phone, no, we got an email, not even a phone call, that our insurer for the last 30 years was just calling to let us know or emailing us to let us know they won't insure us again this year because they're dropping us. Not for cause, just because they're in big trouble. And so we're out shopping and all of our leaders are out doing what they do. And do you think those quotes are higher or lower than, yeah, it's messy. It's a messy world. But we do everything as responsibly as we can here, take very good care of this place and do everything properly from audits to insurance to everything else. But all that's happening behind the scenes at Liberty so that when the Boy Scouts are here on a Monday night and someone slips and falls, we're doing everything the right way to make sure that it's done properly. That's the administration. So when you give to Liberty, not only do we have care and connection and outreach ministries and family ministries and senior ministries and all the property stuff that we do, but great things are happening. And the last slide is about where we're going. So as we move into 2024 and beyond, I just want to lift up a couple things. Next week, we have congregational meeting. And when you hear congregational meeting, do you get excited or discouraged? Oh, congregational meetings. Maybe I'm the only one, but I show up to those meetings more excited than you'll ever know. Because what we're doing is we're electing some of our future leaders. And we've gotten to know them over the last few months and been investing in them and a lot of coffees and lunches. And let me tell you, the future of Liberty is brighter than you could ever imagine. You should meet some of these people. The other thing we're doing around here these days is reversing the 80-20 rule. Have you ever heard of that before? It's the rule that 20% of the people do 80% of the work and vice versa. I joke when I got here, we tested to see if we could pull off a 95-5 rule, where 5% did 95%. I mean, that's how crazy things were gotten. But what we're doing here is unleashing the power of our congregation and transitioning how we do things so that every single person isn't a spectator at our church, but has a role to play, has a spiritual gift to use. And so we're in the process of shifting some of the ministries so that it allows more and more people to be a part of it. I met with someone who was one of our seniors this last week, and they're like, well, you know, I'm a little older, I'm not sure what I could do still. And I told her, well, if you're not dead, you're not done. We're going to figure out a way because you're still amazing and God still has a purpose for you. And so changing the way we do ministry so that people can be a part of it is really critical to how we're thinking about ministries behind the scenes here these days. Obviously, we talked about hospitality revitalization. We're trying to build that and get that going and think about that, what that would look like. But another key part of what we're doing is stabilizing our pastoral staff. So today we have Pastor Jonathan's installation. We're working really hard on getting Kelsey's done as well. Right now, she's often not here at this service because Pastor Kelsey's with our kids during this service. But one of the best parts of my week, I'll just tell you, is 9:30 on Thursday mornings. And the way we do it at 9:30 on Thursdays is Jonathan and Kelsey brings her 1-year-old Riley, and we gather in my house and we just have coffee. And all we do is we spend time getting to know one another, dreaming about how we can serve this church the best. Stabilizing our pastoral staff is a really important part of what we're doing. So we just brought on 2 in the last few months. Technically speaking, I'm new for a Midwest church, right? Getting all that settled. We're in a really good position to do the last bullet point, which is finding a sustainable groove. Coming out of COVID was hard for Liberty, and not just Liberty, but everyone. We lost our pastors of 17 years. It was really hard for our rhythms, but I think, and you might be sensing it, we are in a very, very good place at Liberty to find a sustainable, healthy, wonderful, spirit-filled groove to continue to fulfill our mission. And you'll see that on the next slide. One of the things that we've been doing here at Liberty is talking about our mission a lot. And we think our mission today is the same one that would have been the same as 1810, 1910, 2010, and maybe even 2310. Jesus, please come back. Just tease him. Our mission here is to make wholehearted followers of Jesus. The reason why you give, the reason why I give, the reason why we do our ministries is we believe to the depths of our soul that if you can meet Jesus and experience His love and know what unconditional grace feels like and be welcomed into a community of people that will love you as you are, that everything else can change in your life. You'll experience more joy and more freedom and more community and more fellowship and more life and more dreams than you could ever imagine when you become a wholehearted follower of Jesus. And so that's who we are. And our vision is to continue to be a place where grace is always found, and all people are welcomed into Liberty's historic family of faith. Some folks think of church and they think judgment. I wonder if I'm welcome. I wonder what it's like. But we want Liberty to be a place where you walk in and all you feel is a warm hug from the love of God. It says you are welcome in this place. Our core values, obviously, are up there as well: authenticity and connection and hospitality, etc. Obviously, we're talking about generosity during this season of life. And when we talk about generosity here at Liberty, what we're really talking about is an opportunity to be a part of this incredible movement of God called His kingdom here at Liberty. And so, if you were here as a visitor this week, I am so sorry that you didn't get a good sermon. But I hope you got a taste of what God's doing in this place, and it inspires you to be a part of it. Will you join me in prayer? God, we thank you for the ways that you use us and that you use this church. We couldn't ask for more. To be in this sacred space, to have kids' ministries thriving, to be caring for our seniors and everyone in between, and then taking the love of Jesus beyond these walls to everyone who has an open heart. And we pray this all in the powerful name of Jesus, and all God's people said, amen.